Is being recorded.
So today we wanted to start thought management series. Um, we will ask a lot of questions from Dr. Leena, but I am strong believer of what I think, so shall I become, and I do believe my thoughts are having so much power, whether I realize it or not. But it is going to become a reality if I do put so much energy in one direction, it does become that reality. So I took this quotes from James Allen. You are today where your thoughts have brought you. You will be tomorrow where your thoughts take you. So we will have conversation on this very topic, where thoughts are originated. And all of you have heard very well, like see no evil, talk no evil, hear no evil. But now we are requesting you, especially this time, think no evil. Because when a lot of things are happening around us, we kind of tend to overthink, we tend to have thoughts of worry, anxiety, fear, and whatnot. So I'm just saying, pay attention to your thoughts and don't think evil. As I do believe in that law of attraction, so I want to invoke good things. I want to think positive. So, with that intention, my first question to Dr. Leena. So, Dr. Leena, what are thoughts in your definition?
That's a very, very good, interesting question, Poonam. Thoughts are actually like an idea or opinion produced by thinking. Usually that happens in our mind. Usually, you know, there are different parts to our mind. There is a conscious mind, and then there is a subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is the one where we store a lot of previous memories, previous experiences, more long-term memories. We hold on to a lot of emotions and emotional experiences from before. And so, you know, that's where a lot of our thinking kind of, in a way, it starts to develop. But then the conscious part of our mind is where we use a lot of logical thinking, rational thinking. We analyze, and then that's usually what comes um, to surface. And most of the times, especially the thoughts that we articulate or share with others, are the ones that are definitely coming from our conscious mind. And there are some thoughts that are in our subconscious mind that you know typically we inhibit them from coming unless we've done some screening and rational thinking around it before we present it to others. But that's maybe how we understand thoughts are.
Okay, that's very interesting for me to know. There are two parts, conscious and subconscious mind. So, but people sometimes say, you are not thinking right, or, is there a difference between mind and brain? Am
Yes.
I originating my thoughts in brain or mind?
So, it is understood to be the case that brain and mind are actually different entities, different faculties. Brain is like the hardware that allows the communication between our neurons that so it's mind is considered to be a place or a faculty where we have actually there is an acronym there. We say there are four things in our mind, and there is a team, and where T stands for thoughts, E stands for emotions, A stands for attitude, and M stands for memory. So these are the four things that lie in the faculty of mind. And these are expressed with the help of brain, is how we understand. So we definitely don't believe that brain and mind are one and the same thing. Often we confuse them, and we think that it's a one and the same thing and can be used as um, interchangeable words. But really, these are separate faculties. The brain, allows our thoughts to express and our feelings to be felt. And through the neuronal system, when the neurons fire, that's when the expression of thoughts and feelings starts to happen, and our body starts to feel some of those changes. But they kind of work in sync with each other, like a software hardware analogy. But brain and mind are different.
Okay. Okay, so most of us are software professional here. So, Dr. Lena, sometimes we do know in our software there are bugs, there are defects. So, does it happen to our mind also? Can we get any defect in our mind?
uh, So, I think the closest word I would use for defects in the mind would be like I was talking about, I was referring only to the main two major parts, the conscious and subconscious mind. There's also an unconscious mind, but unconscious mind is basically, for our today's purposes, I don't think it's too relevant because uh, as far as thinking and processing of thought goes, that happens mostly in the conscious and subconscious mind. And so, like I was mentioning earlier, our subconscious mind has a lot of past experiences that we keep in that. We have lots of memories, we have lots of emotions. So there is a lot that we hold on to in our subconscious mind. And if we've had traumatic experiences, or if we've had certain experiences that shaped our childhood or our life, certainly we are more likely to have a little bit of skewed thinking patterns, or there is definitely a tendency, we see in people who've gone through some adverse experiences in their lives, or if there has been um, any kind of memories from their life experiences that have skewed their perception of the world. Then their thinking can be, we kind of say, can be distorted. And when there is you know a lot of that happening in the subconscious mind, often it overtakes our conscious mind, and that's when a lot of people experience those uh, distorted patterns of thinking. They may experience some thoughts that are coming from those parts of our subconscious mind that we refer to as unkind mind. Um, you know, if if uh, if growing up as a child, I was never appreciated, or I did not receive that love and security that I deserve, and I was only criticized and judged, then my unkind mind starts to become more strong and prominent. And that's what stays with me. And it pushes from the subconscious to conscious and makes me think I'm not good enough, I'm worthless, I'm unlovable, I'm a loser, those types of thoughts. On the other hand, if we've had positive experiences from the past, the kind mind, that part of the subconscious mind, is what surfaces and comes to our conscious, where I feel loved, I feel I am good, and I can add to the value, or feel good about myself and feel that sense of security and sense of stronger self-esteem.
Okay, that's wonderful to know. And you had taught us last week kind and unkind mind concept. So how can we be more kind if I want to invoke more kindness within me? What should I do? I mean, especially looking at the current situation,
Yeah,
it can happen like I am like fearful or thinking too much or negative. I want to feel good. I want to feel safe. So, is it possible for me to invoke that kindness within me?
absolutely. So what we understand is that as much as some of those thoughts that come to us because of our past experiences or whatnot, and we call them as automatic thoughts, like even though I wasn't intending to think about the worst possible situation or scenario in this particular situation, first thing my mind jumps to is what if this, what if that. So even if I have that tendency to automatically think about the worst or automatically think about negative about what can go wrong, we know that we can reprogram our software by making a conscious effort to go within, introspect, work on identifying some of those distorted patterns of thinking, or uh, identify that this is where I tend to usually jump to. And there is actually a process that we walk people through when we conduct this specific type of therapy called as cognitive behavioral therapy, to really help them a first recognize their negative or automatic thoughts, and then b how to challenge them and turn them into neutral or positive thoughts.
Okay, that's very interesting. So I will take a pause and I will ask if anybody has any question before we deep dive into this therapy part, because it's a new concept to me. I am definitely very intrigued to ask more questions. But let's take a pause and see if anybody else has a question. I don't see anything coming up in chat. If you, any one of you have any question related to the conversation we are doing, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, I will continue. Okay, I don't see Dr. Leena. So you were talking about there are cognitive distortion, and
Yeah.
there is even therapy to correct that distortion. So well,
So, the time when people feel like, they need extra help or need to get into any kind of therapy like that is when you're feeling like I'm trying so hard to not think the worst or the negative in this situation. I'm really trying to, stay away from any kind of those distorted patterns of thinking. And I'll give you some examples so everybody understands what those are in a second. And despite of that, I'm unable to control them. I'm on that cycle of like, trying to get rid of them, trying to work through them, but I can't seem to get a handle on it. So what we do in cognitive behavioral therapy, it's cognitive is a fancy word for thoughts. And so basically in this, the construct for this type of therapies, the belief is, or the understanding hypothesis, which is actually a fact, is that the way I think affects the way I feel, and the way I feel affects the way I behave. And then it's not just one directional cycle. It's actually once I behave certain way, it reinforces my thought patterns, then it reinforces my feelings, and we are going in circles essentially. Um, and so, what we know is that, when we are because we are in this pattern of thinking affects our feelings, and feelings that affect our behavior. And then you can think about a step in between as well. Thoughts drive feelings. Feelings over time, if I have that same pattern, it becomes my attitude or habit. And then I keep behaving in the same way. So often that's why we say our thought creates our destiny. Like your saying for today was like, what I am today is because of my thoughts from past, and what I will be is what I'm thinking today. So this is what happens over time. If we are in a particular thought pattern, we are really, in a way, slowly creating our future or destiny. So in cognitive behavioral therapy, the focus is that often we don't even realize that, oh, maybe there is some uh, different way of thinking about certain things. Maybe I have some thinking patterns that are maybe distorted. And so often people think about, you know like, nothing's wrong, I wasn't thinking anything, I just felt this big ball in my throat, or I felt this really queasy feeling in my stomach, and I don't know where that scary fearful feeling came from. And so the first step we teach is to start becoming about aware about what you're thinking, because once we are able to identify what your thoughts are, we know there is a connection between your feelings and thoughts. And so once we are able to start recording our thoughts as a first step, next step is to start finding out what's wrong in my thinking pattern, and those are known as cognitive distortions. So let me give you a quick example for people to understand this better. So let's take example of two different housewives in two different households. The situation is their husband is running late from work. So the lady in the first house thinks or creates a thought. So I'm using the word creates a thought interestingly because that's one of our understanding that we also have the power to create our thoughts. So I'm using that deliberately, and we'll come to that as we understand this concept better. But she thinks, what if my husband met with an accident? So imagine if she's thinking that way, how is she feeling? So she's feeling,
Really
yes.
scared, yeah.
Yeah, scared, worried. And so the behavior that translates then into is she's pacing in the hallway in the house, frantically calling her husband, calling his friends and the workplace, trying to find out what happened. Now, same situation in the other house. This lady's husband is also running late from work. Normally, he's home at X number of time, and half an hour has gone by. There's been no notice. So she thinks, oh, he must have stopped by to pick my favorite dessert. So, she thinks, because you may be asking about, oh, I want that favorite jalebi from that store that's on way from your work. So she chooses to think, oh, he must have stopped by to pick my favorite dessert that I had been asking for. Because she thinks this way, she feels excited and happy. And the behavior that translates it into is she's sitting relaxed, watching TV on the couch, and feeling really excited to see him. So situation is the same. Both situations had the common factor. Both women were waiting for their husband. One woman had this outcome of pacing and being restless and worried. Other one was relaxed, sitting on her couch watching TV. And the differences happened because they thought about the situation differently. Okay.
Interesting. So even
So
I was thinking, Dr. Leena, current situation we are in, COVID-19. So I
yeah,
do see absolutely there are people who are thinking very positive. Mother Nature is healing, environment is, now pollution is less. And other people, they're so worried about their future, their kids' future, in fact, their own health. And I don't know what all negativity they are having. So when
yeah.
you were talking about same situation, different people think differently because maybe they have different personalities, their attitude, right?
Yeah, or some of us are like born with it. There is saying that I look at half glass full versus empty. So some of us are more, and we don't understand. We think there is some hereditary component to it. If you have, that type of positive optimism running in your family, you're probably born with that, and you look at the half glass full versus empty. On the other hand, some families may have people who are maybe more pessimistic and have that half glass empty attitude, which may be passed genetically. So we are still trying to understand. Some of this maybe is what we are born with. But what we know is that even if I'm born with that vulnerability to maybe think about the worst thing or the negative possible thing in that situation, I once I understand that way of thinking is maladaptive, it's not helping me feel good because it's affecting my feeling, my behavior. And every time I'm in this cycle of feeling worse. And so once I understand that this is affecting me in the current moment, it may be affecting my body negatively, my health negatively, my relationships. That gives you often that brings people to my office where they say, oh, I need to do something about this, I need to change this, and I have heard that we have the power to change. And I say, yes, we have the power to change. So I'll give you guys a couple quick examples of cognitive distortions. So there are common distortions, and all of us do this. So there's nothing unique about, like, oh, if somebody's doing this, that means there's something terribly wrong with them. All of us go through these distortions throughout the day. Often we do this cognitive distortion of mind reading. What that means is that, I am at my workplace, and I, may think this, and I feel that I really believe in this thought. So I may say, this colleague of mine thinks I am a loser. So they may not have said anything. They may not have shared this with anybody behind your backs or in front of you. But it might be your perception, or it might be a tendency you have that you read people's mind and then you believe that that thought is true. And then you go on believing in that thought, and that drives the feelings of inadequacy, low self-esteem, and then of course my confidence goes down. Often we do catastrophic thinking. When one small thing happens, we think about the worst possible thing. Like, if I failed, like a lot of the people I work with, some of my high school students, they feel like, if I fail in this test, I will never go to any college. Like, it's an extreme catastrophic way of extrapolating one small failure and thinking because of that nothing else will work out. Often we use fortune telling. We predict our future based on one, small incident or one small experience. Often we do other types of distortions, like we do unfair comparisons. On the outside, we may compare ourselves with our friend or colleagues, and we'll say, oh yeah, we've been friends since kindergarten, and look at them where they are, and look at me, I am a failure, look at how much success they have achieved. And actually, this is a distortion. It is an unfair comparison, because it's almost like you're comparing an apple to an orange. Even though broadly they come under the family of fruit, it's unfair to compare apple to an orange just because they are fruits. They are completely different categories of fruit, and they have their own unique qualities and unique things people like about them. So it's unfair. So even if you feel like, I went to high school with them, I went to engineering college with them, and look at them, how successful they are, and look at me, I'm in this lower level position at my job. And again, the reason I need to catch myself having those distorted patterns of thinking is because I am getting affected by thinking that way. The other person who I'm comparing myself is has no idea even that I'm comparing myself to with them. But with this thinking pattern over and again, I'm continuously generating the feelings of um, inadequacy, low self-esteem, feeling like I'm a failure. And then, of course, there is an effect of that on my motivation to succeed in the future. I may give up, I may quit what I am capable of doing. So there is repercussions of how we think, how that trickles down to what our behavior translates as a result. So when I give this handout on cognitive distortions to people and say, Oh, do you do this? Do you do this? Do you think in your thinking patterns often you're doing discounting positives, or you're doing a mind reading, or you're doing fortune telling? And a lot of the times they say yes. And I do that sometimes too. I used to do a lot more until I understood that, oh, I have a choice. I have a choice to not believe in that distorted pattern, and find my neutral way of thinking about this, or a more positive way about thinking about this. So that was probably a long answer, but I hope it's making sense.
Yes, so it is making sense, Dr. Leena. We will be running short on time today, but we will come back tomorrow. And if you allow me, I can distribute all that handout you were talking about, so we all can do a self check and
Yes.
see. Okay, that's good. I will distribute that to all the attendees today. And like Dr. Leena was saying, we do have a choice, right? And she was saying, when even we want to lose weight, our physical body weight, so we need to watch our diet, right? We need to make a plan. So that's what I understood. If you want to really change your thinking, you want to change your thinking pattern. So you need to watch your thoughts, and then only you will able to find out what are you thinking, why are you thinking. So how do we change that? How do we take a look at our thoughts? That taking that pause is very very important. uh,
Mhm.
so now in last 2 minutes, I would request all of you, we will end with a meditation where which will make us take a pause, which will make us look at our thoughts, and that's how we will develop that muscle of watching our own thoughts. And I would like to give homework to all of us. So right now I know we all are tend to reading news more and thinking more. So let's take a challenge. We will start our each day with a positive thought, and we will end with a grateful heart. So I know within Cisco, we have been given that challenge, when you are waking up, first 5 minutes, no device. So I would say rather like, okay, what do you do? We have been told to spend time with ourselves. So how do you want to spend that time is up to you. But what I do take a look at my first thought when I'm waking up. And as I said yesterday, I do, uh, like we do say good morning to our parents, right? So I do say good morning to my father, my supreme father, and I do watch my first thought, and I create consciously that positive thought. And we'll talk about why that first thought is very important, because it is the foundation of your day. So that is our homework, and we will meet tomorrow and find out how we did on our homework. So before we end, so I will just do quickly one meditation so that we are departing with a good feeling. Taking just a minute, I sit comfortably, quiet and still. In the quietness, I watch my mind. I feel my senses. Gently, I speak to them. For a moment, stop. Just stop. Relax and be calm. Become free of hearing, seeing, doing. Just I am in peace. I am serene. I am quiet. So, thank you everyone for joining us today. We will talk to you tomorrow, same time. Do come up with your question. Do let us know your feedback. So, Dr. Leena email address is also there. I can share one more time. And thanks to Alok for sharing thought for today. Don't think twice if you are doing something good, um, like helping someone. If you are having thought of donating something, do it. Otherwise, some other thoughts may get mixed up. Very nice thought. Thanks for sharing that, Alok. Thanks,
Uh,
Vic.
yeah, thank you, Poonam and Dr. Leena. It's really wonderful session.
Thank you. We'll
Yeah,
see you guys tomorrow.
sure.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thank you. Good night.